Hey everybody, Jay Weidner here. Reality checks for watching. I really appreciate it, like and all that other stuff, so we can get more viewers. Anyway, I don't want to waste his time because he's the one and only, and he's a busy man just like me. His name, of course, you guys all know him. You've been clamoring for him for I don't know, 18 months now or something. Clif High. Hey Cliff, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's been a while.
Has you've been doing a lot of really interesting videos on your BitChute channel, and I want everyone to go over there and watch them because very good knowledge that you're giving out. And I think people, aren't aware of it as much. I put every show up on my Facebook page, but you need to get a lot more viewers because your stuff is really good.
Thanks. It's, I
So,
just put it out there, but yeah.
yeah. So, the YouTube's got all this high weirdness going on right now. They're doing a revamp. I think even yesterday they did a revamp. So everybody's got to be on their tippy toes all the time now, which is a real drag. I am moving over to BitChute and things like that. But, your videos lately, I've been painting this picture of, I guess you call it the Fourth World War. And it's I guess it's the top against the middle and the bottom, I guess you could say, right?
Correct.
And they mean to treat us just like we're in a war, right?
Yeah. Is there any doubt? I mean, just look at what's around you. What's in Australia? What's happening in Europe? It's all through the Western world. These are the areas that they control. We know that worse is going on in China now with the CCP, that there's been two other ethnic peoples that have been chosen to be harvested along with the Uyghurs, and they're starting to invade their territories. The only people not really going into this at the moment are in Africa, South America to some extent, although Brazil was targeted, and Russia. I've got friends that recently emigrated to Russia, had a house built there and stuff, and it seems very wise now because of the state of security of the planet that Putin and his people are not involved in this Fourth World War. Even he acknowledges that the Fourth World War is here, if you listen to his speeches. But our enemies stated in 2000, 2001, 2, and 3 that the Fourth World War would not be nation state versus nation state. It would be the elite versus the populace versus humanity. And so that's what's going on. And we know from their own printed and chiseled into stone pronouncements that they want to eliminate 13 out of 14 humans that are currently on the planet. So you're a fool not to understand that you're participating in the world's first global bio war. You're the victim of it. The elite are trying to kill you with deceptions, and they're trying to get you to take the euthanasia, the toxin part of the bio war via injection, so they can be sure you're going to die, not just happenstance. So yeah, it's World War IV.
Yeah, we had an example of kind of the war at home here recently. We got our county, and this is very important information, everyone. Listen, right? Our county commissioners passed a emergency. They passed a law that in an emergency, which is not defined in the law, they can go into your house without a warrant. They can take your property. They can do anything they want. It was even one of the county commissioners in our county said it was draconian. So he even agreed, even though he voted for it. He was told to vote for it. It came down from the top. It's definitely the NDAA. Remember that one?
Yeah,
the NDAA. It's just rewording the NDAA, and we learned something very, very, very important, and everybody needs to listen to this. The people in the federal government can't do anything local without the permission of the county commissioners. Now, we were able to rescind this because we put up a huge protest, scared the living crap out of those three guys, and they rescinded it immediately. And then we found out that other counties had had it secretly passed also. And so now they're getting protests. And now we find out that counties in Arizona and Washington State, Oregon, and California also. So you need to go back to your county minutes, your county commissioners' minutes and meetings, and look at what they're talking about. Go back at least a year or so, because this could have been going on for at least the last year. So we now know that if you just keep a watch on your local county commissioners, that's the bottleneck right there. And, you know, fortunately, we're Republicans and right wingers and stuff, and, you know, kind of drove them away from it. But other counties, they have it. And a lot of counties, like, people want it. They think it's a good idea. So that's the bifurcation that's going on right now. Is like a lot of people want the totalitarian state.
I don't know about a lot. We don't, I mean, there are people, I'm certain, but I don't see a lot of people out here wanting it. And in fact, at the moment, okay, so we're in the Fourth World War. Most people are not aware they're at war. Most people are not aware they're going to be a victim of it, or those that are not aware are going to be a victim of it. But part of you can actually sit back and look at the tactics, and because of the behavior of people, you can discern the tactics and strategies that are going on here. So it is necessary that the populace get the absolute living shit scared out of it. Thus, all the allowing of the Bidenistas to take over the country here, right? And allowing certain things to occur in plain sight so that everybody gets freaked out about it. It's an education. So we're going through an education process. This is the beginning of an initiation, right? So the initiation is probably happening this year, even though I said that in the data, it looked like 2022 was going to be the year of initiation, but it's probably starting now. And in this initiation, that you first have to go through that shock that sends your old world out of your system in order for you to be able to absorb the new information and the new view of reality, right? And so this is the process that we're going through, this shock process. I know that this is occurring, and I know that there are active operators engaged in the war on the behalf of humanity in unseen or in deliberately obscured, not camouflage, but obscured ways. And so we see this all around us, and we can postulate about others. So we know that there are supply shortages going on right now. Now, who benefits from supply shortages globally? All right, if you examine this at all these different levels and look at it from a war perspective, it's like, well, wait a second, how does the Biden regime benefit by the populace being deprived? Well, they can use it excuses. They can use it for the vax and all of this kind of thing and prioritize. It happened at the time of the communist takeover in Russia. They went through such a thing. So it's, well, it's in the playbook. And then you keep looking at it. Okay, well, there are certain aspects of this supply shortage that really don't make a lot of sense. Yes, we've got broken down trucks, but we've got a ton of trucks that are simply not moving and a ton of drivers that are not working. And the ships are not coming in and they're not offloading. And technically, there's really nothing to prevent any of that, okay? And would there be, all right, now would there in any way be any benefit for this action for humans here in the USA? So in other words, I can see sort of some benefit from a totalitarian dictator viewpoint for Biden and his people to hold up the ships and put the squeeze on the US, but they're not really doing that. There's no evidence of that, right? It would seem to be, and it's all through the corporates anyway, but it would seem to be and in fact, it seems to be something of a problem for them now, because they're now having to start to address this. And he's now come out on Twitter as, Empty Shells Joe, right? That's his new moniker. And so this isn't good for him. Ridicule and denigration does not do a dictator good, right? Doesn't make for their day. So they're not benefiting from this. So I think now, who is benefiting from this contrived shortage? Who is benefiting from deliberately stacking these ships up in a particular pattern off of all of the ports? And how would that benefit spread? And then I think, well, as part of the Fourth World War and the fourth generation warfare. So this is a fourth generation war. It's an irregular war. It's an information war. It may at some point involve some level of shooting and bombs and stuff, but at this point, not yet anyway. But who benefits from this? Well, the populace of the United States would benefit from this if indeed we were in an active engagement with China and our populace did not know this. Then it would be a perfect time for China to smuggle weapons into Antifa, to smuggle in any number of weapons and bombs and biological agents and any number of things. And how would they do this? Well, because they're the global producers for everything, they would put it in these containers and put it on ships and not worry about it. It would just go to our ports and we would spread it out ourselves, right? Maybe they're sending some kind of a plague for our crops or something. Actually, they would not do that. The last thing they'll do is to do anything to destroy the soil over here, right? Because they need it to produce the food. But they want to kill off the humans, and they could do it with any number of sneaky ways through containers and stuff. So who would benefit from us slowing down all of those containers and stuff? Well, the people here in the United States that would benefit. And if we're actively engaged, gives them plenty of time to head on out there with a pilot boat with a little crew and go and search, right? They're actually stuck out there for weeks now. And so it'd give you plenty of time to go through all these containers and go and see what's what and examine it all. And also to redesign in place the distribution system for the nation, okay? Because everything's held in abeyance now, nothing moving through the ports. This is the perfect time to readjust all the software, to get your lanes and your traffic and all this kind of stuff figured out for your new wartime endeavor. Unlike World War II, where we went through a period of like 7 months where we were trying to be both a civilian economy and a wartime economy, and it was hell on everybody. And then we got our grooves together as a wartime economy and everything flowed relatively smoothly thereafter, right? So here we're not even going to we're sort of in that transition now. And I think they're doing that. There are people out there doing this sort of thing surreptitiously, you know, just hidden. They just go out and do their job every day, inspecting container ships and this sort of thing. I think that there's evidence of this because of the statements of the people that are stuck on those ships, because there was a big outcry for a while from all these crews that were stuck on these ships, you know, that were starving and all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, that just shut right off. And as though, oh, somebody paid attention and some shit got done. So I'm seeing things that indicate to me that we're at war. We're actively at war. That the Fourth World War and the fourth generation warfare that's being practiced within it are close to coming to some level of breaking out into the open. But when it does do that, it's going to be a huge shock to the system and a radical change in everything. So I'm of the opinion that the people that are working this war are attempting to do everything they can to not hurry that date along. Give them more time to get ready, right?
Yeah, because they've been accidentally hurried up in the process. And so now they're making mistakes because they're going too fast. And that's also contributing to the awakening of the normies too, because the normies are now seeing, why is the supply chain breaking down? Why is all this happening? You know, why can't I get my bike? Why can't I get my toys? And they're not getting them. And
well, and then there's the other, everybody knows someone who's been damaged. So everybody now, not everyone, but there are a statistically significant portion of the population now has personal knowledge of some person who is a casualty of the toxin part of this, right? And so that's put a real slowdown on their attempt of the elite's attempt to keep the machine working.
Yeah. All right. So the machine's breaking down. It's pretty obvious. We're also at the end of the age of Pisces and the beginning of the age of Aquarius. We're also at the very pinnacle of the fourth turning, Strauss and Hauser theories on generational changes. So let's look down the pike at, say, 10 years from now. What's this world going to be like if we succeed in stopping what's going on?
Well, it'd be pretty cool, really.
Yeah.
We'll be engaged in a whole different level of activity in the human species. So we won't have people that will feel as youngsters that there is no future for them. We won't have people that will be thinking that they don't have anything to offer in this humanity because of everything that we've gone through. So the lost generations, the pressured generations here of the millennials and everybody younger than them that's been caught in this secret war and didn't know it, will have been freed mentally of the baggage that's been put on them. Some individuals won't be able to recover from that, but many will. They'll get this new lease on life, so to speak, this new vision of things. And I personally am of the opinion that this will arise mainly, or at least significantly in part, from the release of real human history and the stuff that we'll be finding. So in 10 years from now, we'll have expeditions in Antarctica that won't be bullshitting us. They'll be finding stuff and returning it, showing us pictures and, live drone feeds as they're excavating, all of this sort of thing in a way that's never been done before. Transparency will be the rule of the day, and at all levels, and especially those things that we must form some level of a consensus on for the social order to progress, as well as for individuals to make important decisions. So if it's going to be presented that it's going to be affecting your health, your understanding of who humans are, this kind of things, then they'll have to be presenting it in a transparent fashion for anyone to pay any attention at all, because the media now is destroying the paradigm of top down. And absent that paradigm, then all information is open, but of course, all information is therefore suspect. And we'll have to work out a mechanism for coming to a consensus about what we're all seeing and what we're all understanding about what we're seeing. It's going to be very difficult in that way, but I think very, very liberating. And I think the stuff we're going to find in Antarctica will seriously boost the younger generations, because their minds will just be blown by what's been hidden from them.
You think they're going to release like some of the secret technologies?
No. They ain't going to release anything because they ain't going to be here. Okay. So so we have to change our language, right? We, the people, will be doing all of this because we, the people, are going to basically just come out and take over as all of the other people die off, and with them, the support for the regimes. So academia is dead. Colleges are dead now. Anybody going to college, they're assuming that they're getting some information, but we know that all that information is tainted, it's suspect, it's twisted, it's perverted, and it won't even allow them anymore to get a job or anything. So what's the point of all that debt, right? And so all of these things are crashing. People are walking away from the schools right now. And so, but they're not finished with their education. They're going to start educating themselves now that they're no longer in schools. This is going to create a generation or two generations of autodidactic iconoclasts. So, what are they going to produce, right? And they're not going to take any crap from people, because now the unfortunate situation is that 10 years from now, we will be looking back at most of the great die-off having happened. And in that great die-off, most of the true believers and most of the regime supporters will be the ones that will perish. And so we're going to have an entirely different demographic from those that remain.
Would seem like a very perceptive people could be left behind.
Yeah, and very pissed off too.
Very pissed off. Yeah. And, so everything will, it's sort of like cryptocurrencies. They're not just money. They're a complete change in the way that you think and the way that networks run. And they in themselves are going to have a huge effect, which one wins out in the end. But that's going to have this huge effect on us too, because even now there's Bitcoiners that are creating media companies, all united, using a little bit of Bitcoin every month to put into a giant media company, and they're all going to be rising up, and they're going to be primarily talking about their cryptocurrency, but that's not really what's going on. It's just a kind of a facade for what they're really going to do, which is get out the truth, and they're all saying it openly.
Right, right. You know, the other day I was shopping, and I happened to look up when I was at the counter and going through the checkout process, and there was this machine in the store where you come and you dump your change from your big bucket that you got in that closet, right? And
Yeah.
but you can turn that change into Bitcoin or other cryptos now right in that machine, and it gives you the
Wow.
little barcode and everything to get on your phone and get the cryptos. So how fantastic is that? No, you're correct though, but cryptocurrencies like we have from Satoshi, the very beginning of the white paper was that it's to liberate humans. And so
Yep.
if you read Satoshi's white paper, it reads a whole lot like Nikola Tesla's book, little booklet on how to get more energy for the human race, how to increase the energy available to the human race. And Satoshi basically did that with cryptos. He knew it was liberating, and here we also know it's liberating. And look, they're trying to regulate it. They're trying to push it down. Now the USA is the largest Bitcoin miner. Now that China's backed out, China's in a real world of hurt, and they may never ever recover relative to the cryptos. They've got electricity problems that are plaguing them like mad now because of their strangeness with Australia and rejecting the coal based on this political issue. But now it's all coming undone. In 10 years from now, we'll be able to look back and say, oh, well, that war really only lasted this long, right? And I think that we're within days. Let's see. So let's just say that we're within 14 days of reaching a threshold event in that war that will propel us like out of a catapult, dragging vast quantities of normies behind us into a much more active phase of this. And at that point, so we may say 10 years from now, we may say that the war begins this month. And in fact, it started 40 years ago when the powers that be got the idea for this screwy plan. But here we are now, it's up to us to fight it. It will be fun to have won, but the fighting and the winning won't necessarily be all that fun for most people.
No, it hasn't been much fun. I got to be honest with you. And I don't notice it much because I'm pretty much isolated, living out in the middle of nowhere. And so I'm always shocked when I go to a populated place and I see the kind of madness that's going on and you can't figure it out. I was in Telluride a couple of weeks ago, and every place you had to have a mask to go into. It was so crowded. It was like New York City. Everybody's moving from the cities to Colorado, probably happening where you are too. And we're filling up really fast. And it's kind of scary,
We've got a weirdness going on demographically. The mask stuff, they've got it up here, but the only place that really is an issue is the subway stores, right? Because they've got a real fierce policy of coming down hard on their employees. It's, and you can talk to people. I don't wear a mask. I just go in. No one said shit to me. In fact, I would anticipate that they would want to and carry my phone so I could record the interaction, right? But nobody says anything. It's just kind of goofy that way. It's really weird though. Here we have a lot of people that are moving out of state because they know it's captured, right? They don't want to live with all the communists and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that it's true, it's communist, but it's going to be glorious as we recover it and kick all these people out and get this thing changed, right? Communism never lasts. It dies on its own anyway. Yeah. But the pushback is going to be quite fierce here. And so we've had the population exodus, a lot of people moving south to Florida and these kind of things. This in general, I think is good because of the climate conditions that we're going to be going through that will for sure 2023 will for sure know that we're in the little ice, that in a minimum. And so a lot of the northern tier states in that time may not come out of winter. It'll just be a very miserable summer kind of thing, right? And so under the circumstances, all the people getting south is probably pretty good.
You're pretty safe because you're by the coast. So that won't get the big freeze out. But yeah, anywhere east of you, all the way down to 40 degrees latitude, they're going to be at some serious doo-doo. They really are. And I encourage you guys to really think about where you're living because, I'm at 37. I'm just on that edge and 37 degrees. And and we're up 8,000 feet, so we could really get smacked hard here. So, you got to think about it. But I think you're right. I think it'll be another 2 years. Although I do believe the winter of 21, 22 is going to be a real signal.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's going to be brutal. But I mean, we're starting into it here. But see, here's another aspect of that too. The brutality of this winter is going to be felt in the number of people dying, okay, through the winter from the toxin. All right. So in this winter and the brutality that way, we're also going to be popping out into a year that is going to be interesting relative to people that are awake and understanding what's going on, because you'll see that there's going to be estate sales everywhere. There's going to be property for sale everywhere. It's going to be the biggest deflationary event in solid goods in this United States, except anything that's involved in energy or that cannot be replaced. So if it's going to involve a chip and it's running, its price is going to go up. If it's going to involve converting energy from one form to another, its price is going to go up. But if it's basically anything else other than food, its price is going to go down, because we're going to have too many people dying off, and all those goods are going to be flooding into the now depreciated market. So, okay, so I've got projections here that are suggesting that we're going to get a 4 times higher month over month or annual total mortality in the United States in 2022, right? And so that doesn't even count what's going to happen prior to 2022, just from January through January of that year. And so at 4 times higher, obviously the system crashes sometime around 3, right? At 3 times higher death rate, there's not enough morticians, there's not enough facilities, there are not enough people involved. And a lot of the people that are involved in that are part of the process of dying, because they'll be involved in the sense of they will be dying as well, a lot of them having taken the toxin. So it's going to be very, very, very particularly strange and fierce year relative to our emotions as we go forward here, because of so many people dying on us. And through this process, our social order and the demographics are going to change. As I say, it's it's the Fourth World War, and there's going to be a lot of casualties. But in spite of those casualties, we have to prepare for and take advantage of the circumstances that will present themselves to get us set up for this new minimum, whatever we're going to call this, our grand solar minimum that we're going to be going into. 2022, January, February, March, in some areas, maybe even my area, we won't see winter leave until May. And so it's going to be really harsh.
Yeah, I'm predicting that spring and fall will be about, I was right this year, about 6 weeks and getting shorter. And then the winter and the summer will both be brutal. And they were, and they are. And you said something earlier I wanted to clarify. You said that we are involved in 4th generational warfare, right? Is that what you said? Right. Could you explain that?
Yeah, 4th generational warfare is a concept that is derived from this guy, Captain Boyd, Colonel, actually. He was a pilot. He was such a huge deal in the military that we redid all of our fighting tactics, everything within our military as a result of this guy's effort. There's been this book out called 4th Generational Warfare that is the encapsulation of the teachings. And it basically goes to the idea that we have warfare that involves kinetics, information, and morality. Morality is the new aspect that's been brought into this, that you can actually win a war being moral and being perceived as moral, because that adds to your hearts and minds ability to, ability to capture hearts and minds. The example they use is in Iraq, some US forces just first in country made themselves greatly respected by stopping their activities in a local street and taking their hats off as a funeral was passing, okay? Acknowledging the relationship between themselves and the populace that they were guarding or occupying, depending on your viewpoint. But in either case, even if you saw the Americans as occupiers, you still gave them street cred for that particular action, right? For respecting the locals in their particular tradition. So that said that these were moral individuals. And so that group got treated better, differently by their local environment, et cetera, et cetera. So you have that moral stuff with us. So we know Biden is not moral. So in that sense, when you have the idea that when you know that your enemy has not got the moral high ground or can't even claim it, then you are able to just deal with them in a very much more effective way, right? In many different, more effective ways. Fourth generational warfare, though, is irregular war. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it, is that you have to have you want to strive to have the moral high ground in what you're doing. But another way to look at it is since 1699, nation states have had a legal claim to warfare. 1699, there was the Treaty of Westphalia in Germany that said all kings can fight against other kings, but no one else can raise an army. It's illegal and will hang you, no matter that all kings will bind together to hang you if you raise an army and you're not a king. Because people were doing it, they were being successful, right? And so since then, it's been the nation state that's claimed war. Now we don't have that anymore. Now anybody can form their own irregular group of people and engage in warfare. The state will call them terrorists or parents, but you get to the point where you can have a much more lasting and pervasive impact than organized forces if you know what you're doing in an irregular warfare, in which most of the warfare is involving optics and information, right? So under the circumstances, we're all warriors. The claim to being a digital warrior is a legitimate and growing title in status based on the kind of war that we're engaged in now. So the propagandists that work to control the narrative, to pretend that the narrative is meaningful and existent, have met their match in self-selecting citizens that are able to disassemble them. So, and we know this because the left can't meme, right? The establishment can't meme because they are the establishment. They're not going to be able to do that. And look at how poorly they did when the FDA comes out and says, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, don't take ivermectin. And now they're getting bitch slapped with that on Joe Rogan with Sanjay Gupta, right? And so
that was awesome.
It was cool. It's cool as hell. And that's like classic. And exactly, dude, look at how many millions got converted just on that one episode, right? Yeah. So he's like a 4-star general. So Joe Rogan is like patent in this war, right? He's got his tanks ready and he's read their books and he's kicking ass. So that's where we're at right now. Now, if we get so there's a dual bang here for your buck, right? Every person you wake up withdraws one person from their army and adds one to yours. So it's like the old style Aikido or Japanese martial art thing where send me your troops that I may convert them, right? So that I will be increased and you will be diminished, and that's exactly what's going on now. We're getting close to a threshold where there will be such a large mass of people that is awake that when that mass, and it might be 5% of the population, maybe it only takes that much. I don't know the numeric, but that mass will all of a sudden it will react to something that's going on as a coordinated mass, even though it's not coordinated and there's no central authority or anything. It's the coordination of like a neural net, all learning and doing things, so it's an algorithmically kind of thing through the humans, and we'll all react. And that will cause a shock in the sense that if there's 5% that's awake and it's going to react to this threshold event that's coming in about 14 days, then that 5% will cause another 5% of the normies to suddenly switch just like that. And then all of a sudden our numbers have doubled. And then it just starts really moving. And then we'll see this very, very, very rapid progression of things happening in a way that is not visible. So I know that this occurs all the time and I've practiced this. The Japanese are like this as in their culture. They study, 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 think, 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 plan, study, study, think, 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 plan, and then do it. And it's just done. There's, there's no screw ups because they've thought about all the potentials for mistakes. You just do it and get it done. But it takes that long period of time of seemingly nothing happening. Just a few meetings, few people talking back and forth, a little bit of work being done. And so we've been going through that for some considerable period of time. And we're about to hit this threshold that's going to cause the quivering mass of awake people to quiver so hard about and concentrate on one single thing now that it will cause this ripple effect. Maybe it's the Joe Rogan interview. I think it's a little early. I think that's about 2 weeks early, but I think the Joe Rogan interview is what I termed the media casualty. And I think that over this next week, because the data said it would hit by the third week in October, and that we would see its damage, so to speak, in that third week. Maybe we'll see that there will be a ripple-on effect within CNN itself as a result of this particular Rogan interview, because it's not going to fade anytime soon. No matter how they try and spin it, it's just going to keep going and keep going. I've already seen maybe 40 or 50 clips from it, and I'm sure there's thousands more.
It's a knife in the chest. I tell you, as a media guy, you do not want Joe Rogan exposing not your entire network, but the guy can't even defend himself. I mean, he's the medical authority at the network. Why didn't he put a correction out, right? He didn't. Joe just exposed it.
I know, he came off looking like a little kid, I mean, literally looking infantile, looking, totally unskilled, unexperienced. It was just brutal.
It was. And that they all, to me as a media person, they all seem that way now. They all seem like they don't really know how to act on television, or it's just the strangest thing I've ever seen. I can't believe that they don't have acting coaches, and
it wouldn't make any difference. Okay, it wouldn't make any difference.
But it seems like it doesn't make any difference.
Okay, but here's why it doesn't make any difference. Okay, and you've actually experienced this yourself. But up until the point, okay, so at some point, the Sanjay Guptas and the Lemons, Limon, at CNN, they had their thinking of being the moral authority. They thought they had moral authority with them. That's why they could make these pronouncements without even, with a straight face, right? They were told this is valid. They had moral authority. They're part of the establishment and so on. But now the reason that you have perceived this change is because that change has occurred within them. They now know they are not the moral authority. They know that we know they are not the moral authority because over 56% of the populace thinks that it is likely that there was cheating involved with the Biden regime, and they are part of the Biden regime as its propagandists. So they know that basically 6 out of every 10 people they meet on the street are likely to see are thinking, even if they're not saying it, that you're a fraud, you're illegal, I'm not believing you. And so that removed any claim they had internally to that authority, and that changed their language. And you're perceiving it also in their facial structure and so on. And then you see also they can't walk down the street. Doesn't matter who they are anymore. And that's upset them seriously, that they don't have that status position anymore within the society of the plebes, You're
right. You're absolutely right. And that would explain why Biden his White House is a set. It's not even the real White House. So he's like, what is going on here? And then the propping up of Kamala as being a normal person when she's clearly got something very wrong with her.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully they've all taken a real shot, but I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, they're too valuable to the powers that be at this stage. But here's the thing. Okay, so things are really goofy. They've been goofy ever since the election. There was a coup on November 3rd. The coup was understood to be underway. It had been planned for way back before 2009. Okay, in 2009, they knew that this was a potentiality. on the part of this self-organizing collective that's doing battle with the powers that be. So both sides were aware that this was pending. And the powers that be were kind of shocked on November and then shocked when Biden was inaugurated, okay? Because they expected everything to be different. They expected 1 million people to descend on Congress and tear a new asshole into the organization, right? And it didn't happen. And it was smart that it didn't happen. It was just brilliant that it didn't happen. And in hindsight, we now see how this is part of the irregular warfare. So it was pertinent to us that certain things be done then in January to provide us with what we've got now, which is Biden as a fake president in a fake set, and he can't get into the White House. So the military kept him out. They were told, okay, so we can speculate, we can conjecture that there was a meeting sometime before the inauguration. And the inauguration meeting was with a military person. And it was probably not anybody that was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff or any of that, right? Those are all advisors. They have no command authority. So Tilly and all these people, Millie, they have no command authority over any troops. But somebody that does had a meeting with whoever is in charge of the Biden regime. And it probably was not Biden or Kamala. And they probably was some chief of staff, someone. And they said, this is what's going to happen. And they said, we're quite happy to let you go and have your inauguration, but we're not giving you any of these keys. You're not getting this football. This is not occurring. And that was it. And then they just backed off. And then they just let things happen. And then anytime the Biden regime ran up to a particular point, they would run into some level of active resistance or a stoppage. So they weren't given keys and this kind of thing. So they had to make do with this fake set across the street from the White House now. But up until this point, they've been operating out of Atlanta, out of the Tyler studios down there, right? And so everything you can look, because everything in his operation is 3/4 size of the actual White House. It's a 3/4 size model. So if you go and look at Biden and all those people in the White House, everything is 3/4 the size it should be. All the windows, everything, it's all to scale. It's beautiful work on their part, on the part of the set builders. But in any event, so now we have the thing here where even the normies are going to start saying, basically, WTF, empty shelves, Joe, what's going on here? And it doesn't matter. And the whole point was there's people that are going to care about politics. There's people that are going to care about religion. There's people that are going to care about the Constitution. People are going to care about the cities and the riots. There's people that are going to care about food. People are going to care about cryptocurrencies and the dollar. People are going to care about war and the military in Afghanistan and so on. But we've got to get all of the people involved in this counterinsurgency in order that the plan for depopulation should be derailed, okay, that should be fought. And it can't be fought effectively as an organic discovery, all right? So here's the thing. So if there was no SOC, if there was no self-organizing collective, we would still find ourselves here and we would be in an even further world of hurt because they would have had more power because they never would have been stopped or stymied or hindered anywhere along in the process. And so, for instance, Hillary Clinton would have been president. We would have gone to war with North Korea, would have lost our constitution and been forced to surrender our guns at gunpoint, and would now be faced with mandatory at gunpoint injections of toxins. And we're not there, okay? So this plan is not working. None of their plans are actually working out. And people like Lemon and our Dr. Sanjay are understanding this at a visceral level, even if it hasn't penetrated to their cognition just yet. They're nervous. And so as a hunter, you know when your prey is sensing they're being watched. And these people know they're under observation. They know they're at risk now, and it's coming out in all of their actions, and it's even changing their language at an official level. And also we find that the one of the clips I looked at with Joe Rogan and Gupta had more views in hours than CNN has had for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I love this idea that their moral authority has been undercut. at that, because that explains their kind of sanctimonious attitude. I couldn't figure it out before, but now I get it. They actually think they are the moral authority, and that's
They
why they're
believe their
acting the
own
way they
press.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah, they're
now that's
propagandists,
being
you know.
undercut. Yeah, they're going to get terrified. And now the thing is that as a hunter, I can tell you when you've got a wounded animal, sometimes it's more dangerous.
Much more
And
dangerous. Yeah.
yeah, and I've been in many scraps with wounded animals, and it's not fun. So they're not wounded yet, I don't think, but they're scared. They know something's after them, and they're scared. That's what I see. The terror on their faces. That would also explain Kamala's video with the kids trying to repair an image or something. But it comes off so bad and so phony that I really wish she would have hired me to help direct it.
No, you wouldn't have taken the job. I hope.
No, I don't do that stuff anymore. But yeah, so you're pretty optimistic then.
Oh, sure. I think, well, okay. So I go to bed every night, and, after having gone through tons and tons and tons of emails, 600-700 emails, lots of people having trouble, lots of people dying and all of this, and I get depressed continuously. So every night when I go to bed, I get depressed. But every morning when I get up, there's always this little spark in me that says, we've gotten that much closer. And as a warrior, I know that we're right at that point, right at that precipice where my skills will be really needed, okay? And because we're going to get to this point. And so I'm very optimistic that we are within 2 weeks of a threshold event. My data sets have been pretty good, absent the blue chicken pollution, right? And all of that.
Sorry about that.
That wasn't your fault. It was, it was the twoob, David and Corey. But I'm out of that now. I'm out of that shittery, and it was like, okay, so, but every morning when I get up, I'm optimistic because I can see actual evidence that it is not going to plan. And I know things are at a factual level. I could write down a pro and a con list and point out, oh, well, they're losing vastly. And I see it every day, and I get emails every day from all around the planet that, hey, we didn't take this here, and here's why, and this is happening in our country, and they've shut down all of these injection centers in our country, and these kind of things are happening, and Moderna's now been blocked for anybody under 30 in EU, and all of these kind of things rolling out step by step by step. It's gruesome, but everything that was in the data is in fact here, showing up now. It's a terrible time to be alive, but we're going to get that $600 silver and all of those horrid days. And then we're going to move into sci-fi world. And that sci-fi world will be my payoff for all of this work, for having gone through all of this.
So you think a series of intermittent events is just going to wake up normies?
We're going to get, okay, so we're going to have an event, we're going to have a threshold event in like 14 days, within these next 14 days. This threshold event is going to cause a coalescing of aligned self-interest within those people that are awake, so that we'll, as I say, we'll all be vibrating to the same frequency, so to speak, right? In a way, now we're a little bit fractured. We're all generally vibrating in the same pissed off kind of an area, but we haven't really coalesced our power around any central point to where we're really hammering on it. And so that will come. As a result of that coming, all these other people that are marginally awake or even starting to get the sense of it will look and see all this going on. They will want to participate. They'll join in. They'll be waking up at that process, and we'll double our numbers very, very quickly. But that is not alone what is causing me the optimism. The optimism is the nature, what I believe, what my conclusion is, the nature of the threshold event that's coming up. And the nature of this event will be of a sufficient shock to forever separate us from the past. Wow. All right, so we'll never, ever, ever think we're in that past world after this event, this threshold event.
I'm in contact with a guy who's in German intelligence, been in intelligence for over 40 years, and he says they're going to introduce us to the most humanoid of the aliens, or we can't use that word anymore, extraterrestrials. And he himself met it. he met this being. And he said, I'm a guy, been in combat and done all sorts of stuff. And my brain was all fine with it, with meeting this ET. He said, but my stomach was churning and trashing itself. And he couldn't understand why he was having these diametrically opposed emotions going on. And I would guess that the thing is just so weird that, I'm going to be weirded out by it.
That's built into us. The xenophobia was put into us by the beings that altered our DNA or altered our inheritance features to make us what we are now.
Right.
Okay, so they were intending to create a slave species. They wanted us to be a slave species that was like a guard dog. All right, a guard dog that could also pull a cart. So you can use that dog to pull your cart, but that dog is xenophobic to anybody that's not in its pack, and it smells that, right? Because you want that dog to be protected and all of this kind of stuff. We are exactly, we have that exact same thing in us, so that we will react to all these other beings because they are not those that altered our DNA. They don't have that feel to us. And so I fully understand. And that's why we have these pheromonic receptors that we find no analogs for in our reality. So get this. All right. So I know a guy that is fantastically high up. And this is like a secret source. He's a buddy of mine. He's fantastically high up in the perfume business. All right. We went to school together in Germany. All right. His dad was a French attaché military assigned to diplomacy, and we were just in the same school for a while, right? And he's a good guy, and he went into the perfume business, but he's a scientist. And he was telling me, he said they did this analysis of these receptors inside the very high part of our snouts, where the major pheromones take hold. And he said, we can slot them in. He says, we're getting so good. I can make these molecules. Everything to him is the shape of the molecule and how it goes into the pheromone thing. But anyway, he says, we've got pheromone receptors that we cannot find pheromones to fit. And he says, I cannot even imagine what kind of a molecule, he said, on these 40 different things, he said, I can't even imagine what kind of a molecule will fit these slots. And it's like, oh. And so, so I'm of the opinion that that kind of stuff is actually engineered into us, and that this is why we're going to react to these beings. But I don't think that that's going to be our threshold event, Guy. No, I don't think so. The space alien stuff is probably going to be dribbling in over next year. But I think our threshold event, or we may have that. Okay, so let me back up. They may do that. The powers that be may bring in and try and intrude on the news cycle by introducing us to space aliens at that level. Thus also prepping us for the idea of the space alien invasion. They're actually here, they're real, we could shoot them if we wanted to, that kind of thing, right? So they may do that because of the threshold event, but that coming out wouldn't be the threshold event, because as deep as it's going to have a significant impact on us, it's not going to be anywhere near as emotionally significant as what's going to occur. And so let me see if I can find an appropriate. All right, so here would be an appropriate level of a visceral response to a threshold event. What if we had a threshold event where you saw, Michael Obama doing a perp walk? Okay, all of the implications of that, right? They would show that it was a he that would come out in the perp walk, that there was some huge amount of stuff that's causing this, that it was an arrest by military for treason. That kind of a thing would cause the sort of threshold event that I'm talking about, because of the ripples that would go through all of the normies' minds, because it would bust up all of their illusions about all of this past. And so that's the kind of thing that's going to be coming out. And then the space aliens and stuff.
Right, because it has to make a break with the past, the event. Gotcha. That's what's so important. Yeah, Terrence McKenna once told me that we were The only thing that he could see going on around was that the leaders were actively burning all of their bridges to the past. And he wasn't ever sure why they were doing that, but I guess that was to control us in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
But
if
I
you
do
haven't
agree with
had
you
a
that we're
sense of
going
your
to be,
past,
yeah.
then you just
So I
know
do
you're-
agree with you that we're going to be discovering new histories. I really do. And there's a lot of movement and work towards that going on. It's pretty exciting, actually, as we begin to examine what really happened in the last 1,000 years. That's really the question. Well, Clif, it's really been good talking to you. You and I are practically the same age. I think I'm a little bit older than you, and we both got colon cancer almost at the same time. And we both lived in Washington State for long periods of our life, and we both got sued by Corey Good. So we got a lot in common.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The blue chicken cult. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's going to have his own one day. All right. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been really interesting.
Sure. No worries, Guy. Glad to do it.
Yeah.
You take care.
Yep.